Hello, world. I'm Chris Pirillo, and it is a late Monday afternoon, early evening, and it has been one hell of a Monday for me, and I'm definitely not done working. So every month I do a patron hangout with people who have pledged at a certain amount, and I'm joined with a few patrons right now. Hello, everybody, and
Hi.
we'll be talking off
Hello.
and on and throughout and within and together. But this month, since I got to the end of the month, and I'm not kidding, I've been very, very crazy, not just dealing with, issues around the pregnancy, not bad issues, just things I got to take care of. Not my pregnancy, obviously, my wife's. Although I probably could stand to lose a few. I kind of look pregnant, I feel at times. But also, I'm sorry, I'm not military. Unlike half the people in the hangout right now. Yeah, so I know I'm honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm like almost waiting for a better wearable before I jump into the fray of wearables. And I'm looking forward to it. And it's really sad for me to sit here and say a piece of technology would motivate me to get off my ass and like do something, but that's exactly what it's going to be. And I have not seen a single wearable that I would want to wear for longer than 5 minutes. So anyway, I've been busy with that, been planning Vlogger Fair, so the time escaped me, and when I realized it was at the end of the month, I was like, okay, I'm here to, and I think the biggest value I have, or anybody has, is really time. So this week, I'm going to be doing 3 hangouts with patrons, so you may get used to seeing the same people over the next 3 days. Tomorrow's hangout's going to be earlier in the day, so I'm kind of mixing it up especially for international audiences. I'm not always able to do these kinds of things, which is why I'm very, very careful about when I'm able to go live online. I think it's been tweeted out, and I think it's been posted to the YouTube channel, so people should know it's going on. I did not send out a push notification to all the people using the app on iOS or Android, but hang on just a second. I hate typing and talking at the same time because I want to say something and type something completely different, but I'm multitasking at a very low frame rate. Thank you, Google. Which I'm going to blame Google on this because it works just fine on my desktop, and for some reason or another, it doesn't work fine when I'm, just pretend these are vapor trails. Like, yeah, I'm moving slow.
I'm sorry, but that was the best part of that was one of the best parts of the most recent vlog.
You saw it then. You saw it.
That was awesome. That was
Yeah.
absolutely awesome.
I recorded it. I recorded that segment, and I was like, I could probably go in and tweak it a bit, and then just mess with the audio a bit, and it worked out well. It worked out exceedingly well. I was surprised at how well Final Cut Pro worked for me in that capacity. So anyway, topic agenda. I titled this Patron Nerdathon. So I don't know what that means exactly, but I think for about the next half hour at least, we can nerd out about something or geek out about something. Obviously, I'm surrounded by Darth Vader stuff, so does Chris want to talk about Star Wars? The answer is always going to be yes. And I realize I'm the only one who wants to talk about Star Wars usually, which is really sad. This is the funny thing. Like a lot of geeks and nerds who like tech are all about watching all these tech videos, and I'm the one who's watching these 3-hour hangouts of action figure collectors talking about the new action figures that were Hasbro announced at Comic-Con, and I'm like fascinated looking at the sculpts and the detail and knowing the points of articulation, and I know that 99% of my community doesn't give a rip about anything that I care about. It's sad. It's so sad.
You'd actually be
What's
surprised. I run a patron exclusive anyway for my patrons. I run a show called WDYT. What do you think? And one of the questions that was recently asked to me by Sugar Cube, Michelle Stanley, was what do you think is going to be the future of the next couple of movies, and how do you think they're going to tie into the previous ones? And I thought that was a really good question. I think that video I did was like a good 15, 20 minutes long, and I've only got like a cursory, a real basic knowledge of Star Wars, other than the fact that I love it. So, what do you think? How do you think they're going to tie into to the last few, or to the other prequels?
Well, if they do it the right way, they'll do it the right way. But unfortunately, if you're overt about it, it's the wrong way. And I think when you've got a cultural touch point, they're doing well enough with the bringing in some of the original cast. You wouldn't necessarily have to do much beyond that. And I certainly wouldn't expect to see the original cast beyond the first of this next series of trilogies. It'll be enough to bridge the gap, and I think, like I said, if they do it right, and I think what my chief concern is hearing about all the casting. It seems like a very diverse cast, which is fantastic. No problem with that. The problem I have is there seems to be so many of them. I'm like, where are you going to get character development? Like, I mean, so I know who Luke Skywalker is and Han Solo and all these other people, but where am I going to find out what they became, who they became? And with so many new characters mixed with old characters, where am I going to sit on an emotional scale? It's like I watched the movie Monuments Men, and it was directed by George Clooney, and I've always appreciated George Clooney's work as an actor. But I watched the movie, and I'm like, I couldn't latch on to any character. I mean, I just didn't feel, there was no emotion. A character died, and I'm like, well, that sucks, but I didn't feel anything.
Right.
There was nothing there, and that's, I think, if I have the biggest fear I have with the next trilogy for Star Wars is specifically that, and I feel that was part of what was lacking in the prequels as well. So, I think it's deeper than just going back to basics with special effects and being gritty with the approach to this particular type of storytelling. Of course, you want to tell a story, but that's how do you find the balance between telling the story of the previous generation and yet tell a compelling story for the next generation? And the closest, even though they're not the same, I'm going to pull a Star Trek versus Star Wars here. They're not the same. One is fantasy, the other is more sci-fi. And Star Wars is probably more fantasy than it certainly is sci-fi. Star Trek is more sci-fi than it is fantasy. Star Trek could happen. I mean, we could evolve to that point, but it's not the same type of universe, really. I mean, it's not even the same galaxy as Star Wars. But
right.
Star Trek Generations, when I saw that movie, I enjoyed it. I really did, because I liked it, but it still left me wanting. I watched it going, this was an episode of The Next Generation. Like, why was this a movie? And every Next Generation movie that came out from that point on, up until the reboot, I enjoyed it, but at a different level. I'd watch it and going, that was a TV episode. Like, I mean, great, Captain Kirk, Captain Picard. I called him Crapton. Color me a Captain Picard fan. If I had to choose, if you had a phaser to my head, I would probably choose Captain Picard, but I would choose Captain Sisko over Captain Picard. So I'm just saying. I felt like I was wanting more from that movie, and I know it was trying to basically pass the torch, of the previous generation to the next generation, but it didn't work for me. It felt more like TV, and that I can't help but feel that I'm walking into the next trilogy, obviously being a Star Wars fan, walking in with open expectations. I just want it to be better than the prequels. I just want it to have a solid story, good character development, and just make me feel like I belong with this group of people, that I feel like I'm a part of that group of people. The camaraderie, it really didn't exist at all in the prequels, and that, I think, was part of the magic, behind the original Star Wars trilogy. So I think that they're if they do the right thing, they'll make it about the story. They'll develop characters. That's the one thing I'm worried about, though. Not about story, but character development. And they'll not just appease the fans, but give us something to latch on to again. And that's really, it's been missing. Even with the release of the Clone Wars, which was fantastic, as far as an animated series is concerned, they're building up Rebels to be this thing that is going to be. I'm nervous about Rebels because it's been built up so much that I'm afraid it's going to miss expectations.
You're afraid you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing my best to attenuate my excitement. I want to be excited, but I'm not just going to be excited outright. It's like some people, like in the world of tech, they get excited when any new device is released. I'm like, well, I'll get excited when I get excited. I'm not gonna get anticipated about being excited, or I'm not gonna anticipate getting excited. I'm just gonna let it happen. If I get excited, I get excited. If I like it, I like it. And I may not be able to put a finer point on that up until the point when I'm actually able to experience what it is that they've put together. But anyway, so I didn't even want to nerd out about that. What I was going to, before I sidetracked my what it was that I wanted to talk about.
Question.
Believe it or not, I actually wanted to talk about something else. Earlier today, during the TLDR broadcast, I made basically a what is it? A reference, I guess. It was a reference to a couple of acquisitions that Apple had made over the weekend, really, and they did it silently, and they're not saying much about it. But I think it's really, really kind of important to think about or think through in terms of the direction that Apple's headed in relation to where they are today. So Apple, had been a juggernaut in terms of media relationships and connecting people with the media that they cared about. Well, Netflix comes along, steals their thunder. Spotify comes along, steals their thunder. Well, they kind of got to get their mojo back. And so with Apple acquiring both Swell and Booklamp, two completely different teams, two completely different services, but still tied into media, I think Apple's moving in the direction of bolstering a subscription play. So imagine being able to not just buy an Apple device, because again, for at least 2 years, this device is not interesting anymore. It really isn't. Sorry, Apple. I mean, it's an iPhone. I would say there are interesting devices out there, but Apple's got to figure out what it's going to take to be more interesting beyond the actual piece of hardware. It's no longer about just the hardware, but what does that hardware do? Can you see things better in bright light? Are you able to do this with the camera app? Are you able to do that? Are you able? Does this happen? What's the ecosystem about? How does the service tie into it? And I think part of that for Apple to answer is specifically in relation to media. So podcasts have been around for a while. I guess I have a podcast, but unfortunately the stats just show that no one was listening to it, and I'm like, okay, well, apparently the way I'm doing a podcast isn't going to work. It's not costly, but in terms of putting time into something where no one's going to pay attention to it, unfortunately I'm not at that stage where it just makes sense. So podcasts are still interesting for a certain segment of people, and this is what I think is very fascinating about the acquisition of Swell, which is, or was really up until recently, an application on iOS that would act as a, if you will, a Pandora for talk radio. And so you like one show, you listen to the show, you like the show because of the personality, the content, you like the show for one reason or another. What Swell would do is basically recommend another show that you might like, so you'd be able to stumble from one talk show host to another, one topic to another, and your discovery was, the value was increased based on the value of discovery. So if they introduce this type of mechanism, this algorithm, to, let's say, podcasts, or whatever you call it, audio content, right? That's what it is, bottom line, audio content. They have effectively then bridged the gap between traditional media and new media, which is what it used to be called before it was social media. So you just open up the app, you're listening to a show. Who cares if it's on a radio station? Who cares if it's out of some guy's garage? You don't care. You like it because of the content. The quality of the content is what attracts you to that experience. And if they take what Swell had built and integrated into a content experience, suddenly they've increased the value of using that software. And if they only make that software service available on iOS, they've increased the value of the hardware. So again, this goes back to what I've been saying for a number of years. Specs are irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does. I mean, let's face it. Like, if you said, hey, which is better, a faster phone or a slower phone? Well, it kind of depends on what you want. But ultimately speaking, you know, a faster phone is probably going to be better, empirically speaking, compared to a slower phone. But ultimately, that doesn't matter in the marketplace because, you know, there's always going to be one-upsmanship. The question is, what can Apple do to always trump the competition? So by making this acquisition, it was probably an acquihire. So you've got, or an acquire, it looks like acqui-hire. So I read it in my mind, acquihire or acquire, because you're hiring people by acquisition. By acquiring, hiring.
Don't hurt yourself.
Well, yeah, right. I just sprained my. Oh my God! I just sprained my spleen. By doing this, you're effectively bringing in that intelligence to bolster the value of your hardware by introducing a service by way of software that is just for that platform. That could be mirrored, but how well could it be mirrored? How well could it be, and I mean like copied, in the sense that, well, we have a podcast discovery app as well. Okay, how many Pandora clones do you know? There's probably 1,000 of them. That's a bit hyperbolic, but that was hyperbole. I said hyperbolic, but it just sounds weird when I say it now. It could be this Russian imperial stout that's throwing me off. I don't know. I got one more sip. Hang on. Now that I've had a chance to breathe for the past 10 minutes, that's the first breath I took, really, right there. Just you witnessed it live on YouTube. You could emulate what it's doing, but ultimately, if you don't have that underlying intelligence, it's nothing more than a poor copy. So this would up the game of competition, which is great, because without competition, nobody wins. Nobody wins without competition. It's always going to be a one-upsmanship, but then you have to think, again, like any camp, whether it's Apple, Google, Samsung, HTC, Nokia, any player, or I'm sorry, Microsoft, any player in the field, you have to think ahead of what is going to be that value add that's going to get that person not just to buy your hardware now, but to stay within your ecosystem. And this is something that, like I said, I've been like beating people upside the head for the past 3 years. Ecosystem's everything. That experience is everything. So with Swell, I'm very, 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 very excited to see Apple, really thinking through not just what they're doing in the hardware realm, but specifically with software. Then on the basically, I would say to dovetail that acquisition, Booklamp. So this is another app that I would say flew under most people's radar. In fact, I didn't even know about it until the acquisition. It was like, well, why did they acquire them? You got to think, why were they acquired? So Booklamp doesn't exactly do the same thing, but Booklamp does like not just a keyword, but a sentiment analysis of a book. And so if you read this book, the chances, it does some analysis and picks out keywords and sentiment. It'd be able to suggest if you like this book, you might also like this book, because it does some pattern matching in the background seamlessly, so that you may not know the author, you may not know the story, you may not know the characters, but you may enjoy it just as much. So to me, what that does is eliminates the idea of a top 10, and it becomes more of a personalized top 10, which I'm more a fan of anyway. I don't care. It even comes down to content. Like if you ask me, some of my favorite bands of all time they just weren't popular. But I never listened to a song and said, wow, this song is great, but it'd even be better if more people were listening to it. Or the value of this song is only as good as how many people listen to it. No one says that. It's asinine. But that's exactly how the market works. That's exactly how and exactly why a lot of good content just disappears. Because in an ad-driven market, sorry, I'm going to beat this dead horse for a second. In an ad-driven market, the value of content is only proportional to the amount of people who see it. Because it's all ad-driven, and ad-driven is all about numbers. Ads don't care about how who's watching. Ads only care about how many people are watching, and that places the value of the content in the completely different spot to where I think it should be. So it's not about chasing a larger audience. It's about chasing a small, a targeted audience, or making those content, or related content suggestions relevant to only you, so that your top 10 is different from my top 10. And so by making the acquisition of Booklamp, they're effectively saying, hey, we don't care what you like to read. We've got the books available for you to read here, there, wherever. Read what you want, and we're going to make it better because the recommendations we make are more targeted, so you're going to be happier. We're going to serve you better, but the only way you're going to be able to be served better is by using our ecosystem. That's not an Apple thing. Nowhere. Apple does not have a monopoly on ecosystems. Microsoft would say effectively the same thing from their approach. Google would say the same thing from their approach. But it's just that Microsoft and Google have different business models than Apple. Microsoft and Google do not sell hardware. Apple sells hardware. It's just that software and services happen to be the value add. Google doesn't care how you access Google as long as you access Google. Microsoft, well, we really don't know where Microsoft is right now, other than in Redmond. And Jerry doesn't have a job right now. That's all we know about Microsoft. Really, that's all that came out of all the layoffs. So I think this is these two are very interesting acquisitions, and I'm very excited about the idea of Apple possibly coming closer to enabling subscription models to media. I'm big into all-you-can-eat subscriptions when the library is big enough. I subscribe to various media services because it's convenient. It's a matter of convenience. The challenge is you never get new releases. You never get first-day releases. And I think if anybody's got clout with media and relationships with media, Apple's probably about the biggest player in the game, or at least was. Now, this is, I think, I'm going to come back to the Beats acquisition. I don't think Beats was all about the hardware, and that's where I think a lot of nerds kind of got sidetracked. They say, "Oh, the Beats, the headphones suck." I don't think it's about the headphones. It's about culture, and more importantly, and at a substantially deeper level, it's about relationships. Because the only way you're able to get deals done is by knowing someone. You shake hands, you make a deal. And if Apple's going to survive, in a day and age when, hardware is just as fast as other hardware, spec for spec, they're meeting each other, they're always, head to head, the one place where you can excel is specifically in your relationship and your ability to help people or your users access media. Sorry, I realize this is a hangout. I should interact. I'm sorry, I'm turning this into... God, I suck. I'm sorry, guys and gals. Sorry, Liz. Guys and gals. I was going off on a tear. I can't. Okay, I can breathe again. I can breathe. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, hang on. I got. Okay. Diogo Alameda says Google has the Chromecast. The Chromecast is a mouse fart compared to anything else. It's nothing. It's what Google. Why do they release that? There are 400 million sessions. Okay, so we're counting sessions now? What? Okay, I'm sure. I've had over 1 million browser sessions on my computer. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? I'm still one user. What does that mean? What does it mean? 4 million sessions. Wow, whoa, Google, slow down there.
Is that like hitting 1 million subscribers on YouTube? So you're gonna create this whole.
How many did you buy? How many of them are watching? How many are engaging? How many of them will be here 10 years from now? How many of them genuinely care about you living or dying? It's not about subscriber count. It's not about session count. It's not about sales count. It's about making something that's relevant to you. About taking something in that you appreciate, that you want. And that, like I said, it's not an Apple thing, it's not a Google thing. I think it's a user thing, or should be a user thing.
It definitely should be a user thing. I definitely agree with you.
Well, but I'm saying, you can't, I'm talking about media services. I'm not talking about a stupid gadget that you plug into your TV. And listen, I would call an Apple TV a stupid gadget that you're plugging in. I'm saying it's a stupid gadget. It's just a gadget, that's all. What does it bring to you? And the Chromecast, I hate to say it, is not an Apple TV. They've come closer to it. They've come closer, but it's not there yet. And it will continue to improve over time. And I think Google has the ability to leverage their media relationships. And I don't just mean, you can play Netflix on your Chromecast. Big deal. I got internet connected. I can play Netflix anywhere. Not a big deal. Not a value add. What can Google bring? Can you show me the latest Disney movie day of release when it's in the theaters? Only instead of having to go to the theaters, I'll spend $20 to watch it night of release in my home. I'd do that. I'd totally do that. I'm not kidding. I would spend more than the price of a movie ticket until. Okay, guys, gals. Sorry, Liz. Don't mean to do the whole sex thing, dividing thing. Guys and gals, y'all. She's Canadian too. Sorry. So I'm not sorry you're a Canadian. I'm just wrong, right? I'm
Well
making.
done,
I'm the
Chris.
one who's supposed to be saying sorry. I'm Canadian.
Oh, right. So, okay, I don't think I'm the only one who would pay. I would pay double to not go to the theater and to watch a first it just released movie instead of having to go to the theater and spending $30 some odd dollars, when you include food or whatever, enough money. I'd rather stay at home and watch that movie and pay twice as much as I would for just a ticket for me than to go to the theater. And I can't be the only one. I can't.
I don't see that happening anytime soon either.
Neither do I.
I want to say it's close because I think that they're going to have to. That Delta, we're getting to that point where, I think people are still going to go to the movies and everything, but in the past, I've tended to make moves before a lot of people have made moves, and I don't know if that makes me an early adopter, but I was a big fan of subscription music services before that was on vogue. I was a big fan of the idea of buying into, what was it, Rhapsody. I used Rhapsody before it was Rhapsody. It was Urge. MTV launched on Windows Plays for Sure as Urge. And so it was a partnership. And so I basically paid $10 a month to get music through Urge and didn't have to worry about it. And I ran through Rhapsody up until the point where Spotify came around to the US, and then I jumped to Spotify. But now everybody else is kind of in, there's a big enough library, I'll go that route. I think the same thing, what happened with Spotify is going to happen with, and we're not there with Hulu yet. We're not there with it, but it could happen. The same thing that what happened with music is going to happen to traditional TV shows, is going to happen with movies or long-form content. And the challenge is, and this I'll come back to what I was explaining about the acquisition, making that transition seamless for users. What do you care where you watch it? You don't care. You don't care. It may be professionally produced, but if it's a big budget film, small budget film, if you enjoyed it, what do you care who made it, where it was made? You just want to be able to watch it. You want to be able to experience it or listen to it. You just experience it, take it in. And I think that bridging the gap between traditional, I guess, digestion or taking in media construct and the new media construct, I think it's going to happen. Amazon, I think, did a really good thing with Kindle Unlimited, or I think that's what they're calling it, right? The unlimited ebook service.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I like reading, but I tend to read in small chunks. Diving in, unless it's like, a good old comic book, good old with the Darth Vader in it or Star Wars, I'm like, that's, that's where I am. I think that it's going to happen. We're going to get to that point where it's an extreme value to buy into a subscription-based model to access all you can eat without having to worry about licenses, without having to worry about tracking media, how you watch it. You just know you want to watch it. And that's exactly where we're not there now. Obviously, movie theaters, there's a value. But I think over a period of time that the release just in the movie theaters is they're going to realize, we can make the production companies could make a hell of a lot more money if they release first day in the home and the theaters than they can theaters alone. Then the theaters really got to step up their game. I think they're on their way out. And it's not to say you have to have an amazing home theater experience. I just know that I'd rather sit here and watch something brand new on my computer screen or on a TV screen than drive 5 minutes across the street to drive. I'm not saying I live across the street from a movie theater, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. And I think what it's going to take is a blockbuster film taking that leap and working out an arrangement with an Apple, with a Google, with a Samsung, with someone who's got critical mass in the marketplace and release. Imagine this. Imagine Marvel, Disney, who's in bed with Apple. Imagine they do something, because Pixar, Disney, all the whole, they're there. Imagine if one of the upcoming Marvel films, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say They release it in the movie theaters at the same time as any Apple device. And let's say it costs twice as much on an Apple device as it does in the movie theaters. What if they find out? What if they discover that they make a crap ton more going direct on first day? Suddenly, the idea of going to movie theaters is like, we can make more money here? Yeah, that's what we're in the business for. We make money. So this is what we're going to do from this point forward. And so it's just going to take one to really be that tipping point to make and it's got to be a good movie. It can't be like Geely 2. Now, it's like, no, who's going to watch that? You got to pay me to watch Geely. I'm not going to pay to watch it.
It would kind of be almost like if they took the third Hobbit movie and released it that way as well.
Zeo Fox, that's exactly what I'm saying. Instead of releasing to the theater, release it simultaneously on disc, in the theater. You blitzkrieg it. Okay, so I'm going to take a step sideways in a second. Yeah, release it everywhere, digitally, physically, in the theater, and just put it out there. And honestly, then I think that's what honestly the industry's scared of doing, because I think what that will tell them more than anything is that the game is over for the way that movie distribution or media distribution has been used. And the gateway for these discovery mechanisms, discovery mechanisms, are these things. Whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or a phablet or somewhere in between, a gadget, some kind of device. Whether it's a television or some kind of screen in the home. And that it will happen. Mark my words, it'll happen. It's not a matter of if, but when. It's just got to happen. Oh, apparently someone thinks I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. Brendan Noble, thank you for underscoring that. I'm sorry. This is a hangout. I got to shut up. Okay, your thoughts.
Oh, wow. Like I said, I still think it's a long ways off before...
okay, long ways, and give me a year. Give me a range.
A range? Oh, wow.
5? I give it 5. That's my I'll throw it. I'm slapping down a 5. Bam.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I could see that. I could see around 5 years, maybe we start seeing something like that.
I could see between now and 5 years from now. I could see the actual physical development of it starting, but the actual implementation between 5 and 10 years from now, because it's not going to happen, just all at once. They're going to test it here and there with, some of the bigger movies or some of the smaller production ones, like Disney, for example. How they do the fairy movies with Tinkerbell and all of that. Sometimes they'll release it in a big name one like that in theaters, and other times they'll release it to the subscription services like Netflix or Amazon or something like that. But but it's going to take a while for after it comes out in theaters to come to those subscription services. But for
yeah, that's exactly what I mean. And by the way, I'm watching the comments that are coming through too. And someone said that I don't realize just how many jobs would be lost. I'm not saying movie theaters need to disappear. I'm not saying they need to die. I still enjoy sometimes going to the movies. The problem is I spend as much in the movies as I would on on a DVD. At which point I wonder, well, why not just wait for the DVD, or so that I can watch it over and over again? Other than not being in the theater or not having to pay exorbitant rates for popcorn. Or I could rent it for $1.50, the little kiosk. So it's a matter of changing the value prop of what a movie theater is. It's not destroying.
Well, hearing that, it's for those theaters are still for those people that are passionate about the movies. If you follow a series, say for instance, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, 2 perfect examples. There's a lot of books out there for both different genres. You've got Star Wars with the sci-fi opera, fantasy land, and then you've got Lord of the Rings with their whole plot and subject and da-da-da-da-da. But you've got those fan bases that are going to constantly wait for that to come out, and they're going to want to immerse themselves in that large screen experience.
Well, and that's, I think, the bigger value. But it comes down to not just a matter of economics, but a matter of convenience and a matter of immediacy. And I just don't. I really don't see. I don't see the movie theater, being that much of a value add with today's home entertainment being what it is. I'm just as satisfied watching a YouTube video on the phone. Go ahead, Liz.
Some people go to the movies to go to the movies. That's what I do.
Right.
I usually go on Tuesdays because it's cheap night. I don't even have a television at home. I got rid of it, so I go to the movies for the movies.
We got a cord cutter here. Watch out for them Canadians. They're crazy. You're not alone, Liz. You're not alone.
No, not by any means.
No, and then you've got the whole Imax experience. I mean, that's another big one that's making a huge leap forward. Is those Imax films, and that just massive immersion of the content. I mean, sometimes you can't get that at home.
And I think it's the immersiveness, and that's where the bigger value. In fact, I would probably be inclined, if I were to watch something at home, say, it was okay, but I think it would be better if I had a better sound system or a better screen. It would be better to see something in a bigger capacity. I'd be more inclined to see it on a bigger screen after I saw it on a smaller screen if I enjoyed it than the other way around. Because I rent movies now, like on a free redeem code for $1.50. I'm like, yeah, we rented. My dad wanted to watch. It was a while ago, but he wanted to watch Gravity because he's a big Sandra Bullock fan. He wanted to watch Gravity. And by the way, Sandra Bullock and I share a birthday. Just saying, it's a little weird, but it happened. So he wanted to see Gravity, and I said, well, it'll be available on DVD to rent. And I said, I didn't want to spend the money. Well, he was here, and I'm like, he wanted to see it. So I ended up buying the disc copy of it because it wasn't rented. It wasn't available to rent. And I feel, even though three of us watched that movie, I still feel like I threw away $20. I'm like, I just didn't enjoy the movie. It was, and I don't know, maybe it would have been fantastically better if I had a 3D experience, and I'm like, and this and this, but I've yet to see a movie that really, if I'm looking at it or watching it, or the value of it is all contingent on the special effects, I wouldn't enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed Avatar. I know I'm an oddball, but I enjoyed Avatar as much watching it in 3D in the theaters as I did watching it at home on a TV screen. I just enjoyed Avatar. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the score. I enjoyed a lot of special effects. There are very few things that I found to complain about with Avatar. I know some people say it's a recycled story. It's been heard before, but I'm like, I still enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, but it had nothing to do with the screen that I was watching it on. And now I've killed the conversation.
Well, it's true. I mean, that is definitely one of the movies that I would consider. Doesn't matter what screen, how big, how small, how good the audio quality is. Because some headphones suck. But it just that immersion that story creates just draws you in, no matter how many times you watch it. Just like the Star Wars series. Right.
Yeah, and I feel that we've just got a glut of we do, and I'm sitting here as content. We're nerding out here, and I'm sorry, I'm not letting other people take the stage. I'm doing a horrible job at Hangout. I'm sorry. You get me going on a topic though. I'll just keep spinning and spinning and spinning.
Well, you said recycled stories, and then Brian Langerman in the chat on YouTube says all movies are recycled stories. Yes, and for the most part, in one way, shape, or form or another.
Although the one I'm looking forward to is Luc Besson has Lucy, and even though I know it may not be perfect, I've really enjoyed The Fifth Element a lot, and really appreciated The Fifth Element. It's one of my, if I had a top 10, I would probably put The Fifth Element well within the top 10. Well within, no questions asked, because it's like, if I watch a movie or if I take something in more than once, that tells me that I really enjoy something about this. I really, for one reason or another, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's how I know.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that's okay. So that's Apple's acquisitions and media and the future. Boy, does anybody else have anything to add or they'd like to geek out about? No. Okay.
Caught me unprepared tonight. That's a shame.
You're what?
Yeah, right.
You caught me unprepared tonight. Usually
I'm
I've
sorry.
something, but
Well, I've thought about this pretty, for a long time. And you can't just. The industry is not going to always be the same, and so you have to think through what's going to be the next thing for any one of these entities that's either making money with hardware or specifically the software that's running on the hardware. That's really one of the bigger differences between Apple and Google. Google doesn't really sell hardware. They don't. That's not what they do. It's not where they make their money. That's why Google doesn't care how you get to Google as long as you get to Google. Whether it's through an app, whether it's through the web, they just don't care. That's where they make their money. They want your attention. The question is where these traditional services, play into the way people are consuming media these days, much in the same way that YouTube has caught Hollywood or the old guard off guard. I think YouTube it's a cultural touch point that even I don't fully understand, but I know enough to understand that this is where a good amount of the attention is going to be, for good reason.
I can speak on that a tiny bit.
Yeah, go.
This weekend in Montreal was Just for Laughs, and this was the first year that they invited YouTube to take part. And so what they had were mostly Canadian, but they had YouTube talent working directly with mainstream comedians in a YouTube studio, and also just having a presence at the festival. And I'm part of the Montreal YouTube community, and we were invited to take part too. And through one of the people, I got into the Funny or Die VIP reception. And I talked to two different people. One was George Wallace. He was Jerry Seinfeld's best man at his wedding. And he just finished 10 years in Las Vegas. And he said he's just new to all the social media and stuff, but he's really interested in YouTube because that's what everyone's doing. And I also talked to Russell Peters, a fellow Canadian.
Somebody gonna get a hut real bad.
And he is a huge fan of, he watches 5 people on YouTube, that's it, but he's a huge fan of YouTubers. Only 5 of them, but he's a huge fan of them. So they're really curious about the world. They don't understand the world of YouTube. They don't understand how people get subscribers, maintain subscribers. It's something completely unfamiliar to them. And even the president of Just for Laughs, he's like, we need to figure out a way, because the only thing that Just for Laughs really has on YouTube right now is the show that's shown all over the world. Their program called Just for Laughs Gags, which is just it's basically a silent comedic act where they do pranks and stuff. Aside from that, the galas, I know that the galas are shown on CBC in Canada, but there's no presence of Just for Laughs outside of the festival to most of the world, and they're really looking at how they can get on YouTube. And so they also had people like Apprentice, who knows, and just to give exposure to Just for Laughs and have interaction. So it was really interesting to see how intrigued they are by YouTube now.
Well, see, I think it speaks to more. To try to bring it full circle inadvertently, and I think you're touching upon this idea of not going after the masses for attention, but finding smaller audiences, but very targeted audiences. So I don't need to find 100,000 subscribers. If I can find 1,000 of them who are really, really keyed in on what it is that I'm laying down, I'm good to go. And that, I think, that's the if there's a nut to crack on YouTube, I really think that's it. I really do. It's not about appealing to the masses. It's about appealing to a smaller, a subset of the masses.
And I think that's what you've basically done with your Patreon campaign.
Yeah, Zeofox. Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way, I can't believe 12 people bothered to watch this video, but we have 47 people who appreciated what I was yelling and trying to scream through. I didn't mean to. I got off on a tear and I was going.
Hey, it happens to the best of us.
I'm sorry, man. I got to be less passionate about some of these things. I know.
Hey, no, that's not true, because if you were less passionate about the stuff that you cared about and the stuff that you are knowledgeable about, then you wouldn't be who you are.
Here is a screen. This screen is 4 megapixels wide, and it's this tall, so it should be fast. And because it's faster, it's better. And the camera up here, it's got a lens on the camera that can take a picture, and the picture you can use. You can send the picture by email. You can tweet the picture. You can Facebook the picture.
Isn't that upside down?
A new feature is that you can Snapchat. I'm not making fun of gadget people. I'm not. I swear. I'm just saying. I was like, oh, it's a screen. Like,
1,000 of us.
Nice. What is it? Make my life better. I want a better life. Who doesn't really? Who looks around like, my life is good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Nobody says that unless you're like, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, someone who's richer than God. So anyway, anybody else want to say anything in this hangout? I think we've I didn't mean to like suck all the air out of the room, but I know we'll be doing a couple of others this week. And Brand, if you got another idea for what we can cover tomorrow, if you're able to make it tomorrow morning, throw it out there, because
what time tomorrow morning?
God, I think what did I say?
I think it's at 11.
No, 10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, I'll already.
I haven't scheduled it, but I'll be updating the thing. I don't know what I'm going to talk about at 10 a.m. Pacific tomorrow.
I know that I will definitely be able to make it to all the rest of them. I could say all 3, but we're in this one right now.
I know I likely will not be as animated as I am right now.
Might have to get you a caffeine IV drip.
No, I'll be probably sucking on my coffee, but completely different at the end of the day, where I know I still have I've got a good 3 hours ahead of me, like that I gotta push through. So, but hence me wanting to divide it up to 3 hours and
Yeah.
I mean over 3 days kind of thing.
That was good. Definitely took me by surprise.
Nothing anybody else cares to say right now?
I'm not sure how we can top the last 45 minutes.
Yeah, valuable stuff. This is what I like about Hangouts, is the whole sharing the thing. It's just I tend to like yell. What you kind of do.
Well, like I said,
only have Vlogger Fair going on. So
Right, Liz. Yeah, lucky you.
Speaking of, I wish I could go to that, but I kind of am in a position of
the ocean and several major terrain features between.
Yeah, I'd say.
That's what it is. The ocean of separation.
That's our next little hurdle, and then not long after Vlogger Fair, I get baby Pirillo, and then the fun begins. Like I said, then the Hangouts take on a completely different tone. Instead of hearing me scream, you'll hear the baby scream.
See which one can tell the difference.
No one. So I'll end the. I'm going to end the public stream, I guess. And I know there are a million other topics that we could possibly cover, but I also know that doing live broadcasts and the rewatchability of them kind of decreases the watchability, rewatchability the longer they go. So it's a good time for everybody. Give it, I'll let everybody sign off. Like, who are you? Where you're from? Where can they find you online? I think everybody can, if you want to, you can jump in and say that. Not everybody at once, though. Whatever you do, I mean that's.
Well, who's first?
Go ahead, Brent.
Okay, here we go. Me. On one of Chris Pirillo's Hangouts over at Greyhawk Tech, we offer a wide variety of services and technology and community support, both online and offline. You can also follow myself and my entire team, to include Zio Fox, on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, we're all over social media. And that being said, I'm Brandon Hawkins with Greyhawk Tech, continuing to bring and content and videos that no one else wants to. Take care.
GreyhawkTech.com. Gotcha. Zio, Mr. Fox, what do you
All right. What do I say? Well, I say that I am... Really?
Sorry, I had to!
I know.
I had
Okay.
to!
I know. And you know what? For the longest time, people ask, what does the fox say? Well, you're about to get a glimpse of what I say. Well, you can find me over on YouTube. My link is in my lower third right here. I do everything from 3D printing to vaping reviews, and hopefully in the near future some products after I get out of the nest of South Korea, because I am active duty Air Force. That being said, I will see all of you on the other side of the interwebs.
And Liz, and I know that Joe and Kieran have largely been muted, not like, you would have been able to get a word in edgewise with me babbling, yelling for the last half hour. Liz!
Oh, well, here's the cat, of course.
Yay! It's officially
It's
internet.
the internet with a cat, and he has a bow tie.
And it's Diane. Look at that! Yay!
Oh, there we go.
Aww.
There he is. Well, I'm Liz, and I'm helping Chris with Vlogger Fair stuff. I'm in Montreal, and I am on YouTube with a channel called You Volunteer. There's at least 24 of us. We're all Canadians. And it's VOLUNTEAR, because we were sad when we stopped volunteering for Buffer Festival. So you can find us on You Volunteer, and I make at least one video a month on the channel. And it's a really neat channel with a bunch of really cool Canadians, and some of them are going to be at Vlogger Fair helping out.
Fair enough.
And
Yes, Kieran, go ahead.
Yeah, basically my name's Kieran Bold. You can find me on Twitter. I'm currently developing projects and using supercomputers at hordelabs.com, finding how you can model disaster scenarios and see what the outcomes are. And yeah, that's me. I do projects with coding, Python, C, and all that kind of stuff. And you can see what I'm doing at hordelabs.com.
Hey, Zio Fox, your URL, I guess, is kind of, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah,
in fact,
it's
the word.
It's like hieroglyphics, man.
Yeah. So,
all right.
what is it?
Just go to YouTube /users/ZWEIM as in Mike AR01. You can find me and all of my videos there, and more to be uploaded in the near future.
Okay, I think I caught that.
Yeah, I'll find him.
Can you say it again?
ZWEIM as in Mike AR01 on YouTube.
Weimer. The Z's always silent. It's like Spanish. Like every other letter is silent.
Well, Z is the first letter of my actual first name, my last name, 01.
Your last name's 01? That's awesome. That's like bragging.
It is. I know, right? I am number one.
Yes, you are. Thank you guys. Thank you for hanging out and putting up with my babbling.
Hey.
I talked a lot.
Oh, did you?
I didn't mean to, but I did.
We're just glad that you could have us on here.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be doing it again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be counting on everybody else to kind of carry the conversation because I'll be going to try a 10 a.m. hangout. Sometimes they turn out not as exciting as the evening hangouts.